everyone. I'm Sarim, Hamid, a student and editor of the Teen Pop magazine. I have a passion for technology and speeches, and I have a little talent at table tennis. Today, I'm here on behalf of the Teen Pop magazine, which is the first online magazine for high schoolers that have young aspiring journalists, giving young aspiring journalists the opportunity to share their voice, build their writing portfolio, and receive peer feedback and membership in the editorial industry. If you'd like to write for them, check the website, theteenpop.com. Today, I'm here in conversation with Meg Adams. Meg Adams is a comic and artist based in Seattle. On rainy days, you can find her bundled up with her dog, sipping coffee and working on a variety of projects, ranging from comics to graphic novels. Aside from art, Meg's loves playing video games and with her husband Carson, and cooking with Food Network in the background. So how are you doing, Meg?
Hi, I'm doing great. How are you doing?
As good as it can be.
Yeah, I know. Oh my gosh. Over here in the US, it's elections.
Chaos, right?
Chaos. Chaos.
Okay, anyway, so how did you get started with being a cartoonist or an illustrator?
Yeah, it's kind of interesting. I sort of stumbled into it. I've always, like, since I was in elementary school, like since I was 7 or 8, I would do doodles for my friends. And sometimes that would turn into mini comics, but most of the time it was just like drawings that would make people laugh. And then in about, I think it was 2014, I had just graduated high school. So I was around the age of people that are probably watching this interview. I started posting some of these comics online. And at that time, I started using digital art to draw my comics. And I posted them mostly on Tumblr, and they started going viral, and people were like really enjoying these comics. And so throughout my entire time in college, I just kept drawing comics and growing a follower base on social media. And I opened up a store. I started doing commissions, which for anybody that doesn't know, a commission is when somebody pays you to draw a custom piece of art. And by the time I graduated college, I was actually making enough money off of my comics to do it full time. So it sort of was like a slow progression into it. Yeah.
I wish I had your talent in high school. I'm still in high school, and the best I can draw is a stick man. Even that comes off really bad.
You know, I will say, I always tell people the beauty of comics is that you don't have to have drawing abilities. It's almost more about writing. Like a lot of famous comic artists, the Oatmeal, I'm trying to think what else, ASDF, I think, Cyanide and Happiness, all of those are stick figures, but people still love it because it's so funny, that they don't really care. Yeah.
Okay, on to the next question. It's fine. What's your typical style or theme when working on cartoons? So what's your style?
I really love drawing facial expressions. So I tend to incorporate those into any kind of comic I draw. My absolute favorite thing to do is deflate people's noses. And so when somebody is like upset or embarrassed or confused, their nose shrivels up and they look a little bit like Squidward. But yeah, it's I kind of started catering my comics around what do I enjoy drawing. And for me, I just love doing these weird facial expressions. So yeah, I would say that's my style.
Okay. So about your drawing routine, so how often do you draw? How many hours per day do you draw? Well, how does it go?
Yeah, I normally dedicate probably 3 or 4 hours to drawing. I wish I could do more, but when you're doing it for a living, I have to answer emails,
Yeah.
interviews, running my store, running social media. So it normally doesn't leave. I wish I could just draw 8 hours a day.
Yeah.
But yeah, I normally dedicate about 3 to 4 hours. I like to do it kind of late morning, early afternoon is my favorite time to draw.
Okay.
Yeah, my process is just I pull out my iPad and I just kind of start doodling a comic for that day.
Okay, so then you make your drawings, right? Well, how do you come up with the script?
That's a good question. Normally what I do is I start out with sort of a general concept. Like a great example is when my dog barks anytime somebody knocks on the door, and he just completely freaks out. And so once I had that concept, I started kind of doodling different scenarios that would show that to an audience and make it funny. And for myself, I don't like type a script and then draw comics after that. What I normally do is I just sketch out the squares of the comic. I draw the facial expressions, and then I add in the text, and sometimes that gets tweaked. Yeah.
So are you more into panel composition or full pages compositions?
Yeah, normally I do like a full page. So some people draw their comics, you know, panel by panel, but because mine are normally only 3 to 4 panels and one single page, I draw it as a whole, if that makes sense.
So this question is, the internet has a wide place, right? And obviously there are a lot of free graphics, cartoons, and stuff like that. So what makes cartoons distinguished and distinct from others?
That's a good question. I think the way to sort of distinguish yourself is to draw what you're passionate about and figure out what you want to say with your voice and your style and your comics. I see a lot of newer comic artists that tend to draw kind of things that we've already seen, like gags we've already seen, art styles that other people have already created. And it's totally fine to take inspiration from those and to practice those, especially when you're first starting. But the real way to distinguish yourself is to draw, kind of find your own individual voice and create art based off of that.
I actually completely agree with you. I think it's the same for every profession, finding your own voice and your own style.
Totally.
Yeah.
So
as a cartoonist or illustrator, what type of tools do you use besides your iPad? What kind of apps do you use, stuff like that?
Yeah, so specifics I use is an iPad Pro, Apple Pencil, and then I really use the app Procreate, which I highly recommend to anyone. Before I had my iPad, I was using Photoshop and a drawing tablet on my computer, which for anybody that's interested in getting into digital art, you can find a drawing tablet usually for pretty cheap. In the US, I've found really decent brands for $40 even. So it's not too hard to get into the digital art if you save up a little money. Yeah.
So what artwork do you feel kinship with, or artists?
Yes. Oh, sorry. Could you repeat that?
What artists or artwork do you feel kinship with? Like what are trying to say?
Oh my gosh. Yes, totally. You can kind of see a little bit on my screen. I have a whole bookshelf of books.
Yeah.
Definitely artists that I just absolutely adore. Sarah Anderson, who does Sarah Scribbles. Kate Beaton, it's kind of funny. She actually studied history, was her degree, but she started doing like little comics and doodles about history, and they just totally took off. And now she's a professional comic artist. I love Emily Carroll. She does horror comics. So it's kind of like fairy tale looking drawings, but really dark, scary subjects.
Okay.
Yeah, those would be just to name a few.
Okay. So in the coming few months, what do you have in plan? What comics do you want to pursue?
Yes. I'm really excited because I am going to be publishing my first comic collection. Yay,
Nice.
like a book. Yeah. It's keep your eyes peeled. It's going to be coming out late 2021. I'm kind of just finalizing the proposal right now, but
Yeah.
it's really been a dream of mine to be published. So I'm really, really excited for that.
I will see it.
So yeah.
And then last but not least, a lot of upcoming cartoonists, what kind of advice would you give them when getting into this?
It's a good question. I would really suggest posting your comics on social media, and not so much for the followers or the comments, but just to kind of start collecting and showcasing your work. Second, find other comic artists that you can make friends with. And it's really awesome when you can find a fellow comic artist and bounce ideas off and get advice on a comic. Third, I would say don't worry so much about the art style that you're drawing in or the tools that you're using. Really focus on what your comic is trying to say, you know, what story is it trying to tell? Yeah. And then I think my last piece of advice would be kind of what we talked about earlier. Don't just post something thinking, you know, oh, it's going to be so popular, I'm going to get so many followers on Instagram, but really write comics about something you find funny, something you find important. I guarantee you that if you produce work that makes you happy, other people are going to find it and absolutely love it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So here's a rapid fire question. So I'm just going to give you a question, and the first thing that comes to your head, say it off.
Okay,
So,
I'm ready. Yep, stretches.
Favorite cartoonist?
Kate Beaton.
Your favorite work of yours?
Oh, I would have to say that recently, that's Quarantine Baby.
Yeah. Controversial cartoon that struck as interesting to you?
I thought about this for a while. I think I would have to say any kind of body positive comic that I make tends to be controversial.
Yeah.
And I love it because it's like, you know, every body is beautiful. It's okay to have stretch marks and fat and, you know, I don't know, moles and stuff. So yeah, that'd be my favorite.
Your favorite comic book?
Ooh, Into the Woods by Emily Carroll.
I need to read that. I was gonna read that recently, but I just never got around to it.
Oh my gosh, it's gorgeous.
Is it?
It's yeah. I totally recommend. Totally recommend.
Probably my read this month then.
Yes.
And last but not least, your role model.
I think I would say Sarah Anderson, who does Sarah Scribbles. And the reason why is she has developed this huge follower base. She has multiple books, calendars, plushes. Her store is huge, but she actually really separates herself from her comics and like her internet persona. And so she lives a really private life while still being able to do what she loves.
Okay, then thank you very much for being here with us. It was a pleasure talking to you, and I wish you very best of luck for your upcoming publication.
Thank you so much.
Have a good day. Take care.
Great. Thank you.